Indie games have been getting inspiration from the retro age of gaming for a long time. There are so many games out there that are simply, hey, we love this game, let's make something as an homage to that game. In the wake of a new 2D Ninja Gaiden game being announced, we're diving into a game that harkens back to those old 2D games on the NES. Here is my review of Ninja 1987 for the Nintendo Switch. The story of Ninja 1987 takes place in, you guessed it, the year of 1987. The world is in ruins with crime taking over, led by a corrupted ninja. You play as a ninja from a rival clan aiming to end his reign of terror and conquer not only your rival, but whatever evil force is controlling him. As a story, it's kinda like the original Ninja Gaiden, but less. It's a very basic take out your rival and the evil plotline. You don't really get much on the characters, and it's actually got a lot less story than the original NES Ninja Gaiden title. It's enough to justify the gameplay, but you definitely do not play this game for the story. When it comes to gameplay, this is a 2D platformer with lots of combat. As you play, you'll be side-scrolling around, climbing walls, while fighting off enemies with your sword, shuriken, and techniques. Upon first booting into the game, you can look at the tutorial or just go into the campaign. There isn't much to do outside of the campaign, so diving right into it, you see from the very beginning that there's a lot of inspiration from the old Ninja Gaiden series on the NES. The way each act starts with the title and ninja flying across the screen is a clear homage to how Ninja Gaiden 1 started each of its chapters. In each act, there are several rooms you travel and transition through. You've got platforming to go through and enemies to fight your way past. This starts off easy with enemies walking around that can punch you, and the game slowly adds more types as you progress. You'll get running dogs and ground-based enemies requiring you to crouch when you slash at them, just like those little jumping enemies from stage 1 of Ninja Gaiden on the NES. And then you get some more wacky things like jumping machines, tanks, and really big enemies that take more hits. To fight these enemies, you can do a normal or crouching slash with your sword. You can also collect shuriken to throw at enemies, and collect energy or ki to be able to do dashing slash attacks or a screen-wide fire attack. Every enemy is fairly easy to predict movement for, so it's not hard to figure out the best way to deal with each of them. You've also got some traversal mechanics. You can double jump to get across large gaps as well as wall climbing. The old ninja games like Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi would let you stick to a wall, but this game lets you actually climb up the walls once you stick onto them. It's a little clunky to get off of walls, having you do a normal jump instead of just falling off, but it can work. Your abilities can also be somewhat combined with the traversal. Your dashing attack you use the X button for can be used in midair. So if you don't have quite enough distance for a wall jump or don't think you do, you can use that dash to get yourself further along. These features work well together, but this is not the ninja games from the 80s. If you expect the same sort of challenge or even a moderate challenge, you'll be disappointed. It plays like those old games, it feels like them, but quality of life features like the checkpoint system take away a lot of the difficulty, as does just the whole game. The enemies of this game are very predictable and they don't respawn by moving around, so that tension of continually respawning ground enemies from Ninja Gaiden is not here. The checkpoint system also makes it so you will never get a game over. Basically, each room transition you do saves the game, including going into a boss room. Dying makes you lose points on your score, but you can infinitely retry from any room any number of times. Even if you reach a score of 0, it won't give you a game over. You just have your score go into the negatives and can just keep going until you win. For a game mimicking NES games, it's a bit odd that there isn't a definitive now you have to start the stage from the beginning function rather than just infinite checkpoint respawns until you get through it. Not that you'll need the respawn mechanic. As I said earlier, the game's enemies are very predictable, and that includes the bosses. Some of the platforming segments can be a little tricky, or figuring out what move to use on what enemies, especially when you start seeing the trickier ones that have the boomerang bullets. But once you get used to what this game does, it's fun, but definitely not what I would call difficult. I only had to retry one boss of the entire game, and that was the rival character that you fight in Act 6. Every other boss, including the final boss, I beat on my first attempt. As all of this comes together, I did enjoy the game. It was fun to play through, even if it was pretty easy and short. Getting into content and length, it should only take you about an hour or so to get through this game on your first attempt. Afterwards, you can replay the campaign for a better score. Next up is presentation. Visually, the game looks great. It's got that old NES style graphic stuff going on and is fun to see how everything moves from the actual characters and enemies to things in the background like clouds rolling by in Act 1 or thunder flashes in later parts of the game. It's also got a pretty catchy soundtrack, helping keep up the fast beat of the adventure. With performance, it's nice and quick as well. The game stays right up at 60 FPS for the entire adventure. Next up is battery life. On the original and light models, Ninja 1987 will give you about 2 to 4 hours, while the V2 and OLED models get 5 to 6 hours. More than enough time to completely get through this game. In conclusion, Ninja 1987 is a fast and fun little platformer that calls back to the retro era of games like Shinobi and Ninja Gaiden. Now, the downside, the game is a bit too easy compared to what it's trying to mimic, and it's only about an hour long. But if you're okay with most of the game not really ever testing your resolve, it's still a cool little throwback game for only $4. Reviews to Go rates Ninja 1987 for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.